Welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we've got special guest, Ryan Starnes, the Hico softball coach, is joining us, and they are fresh off a huge regional quarterfinal win over Toller that saw the Lady Tigers come from behind, down a game, to sweep games 2 and 3 against a very good Toller team. And this is a team that hadn't even won a playoff game before this year. And now they're in the regional semis. It's really a remarkable story. It really is.
Definitely. And Coach Starnes was a guy who came, from Brock with a lot of success in that resume. I mean, he had a ton of success at Brock, taking them, I think, to 4 state tournaments. So obviously, making that move, it was interesting to see what he's gonna be able to do, going from a program that was with such a tradition-rich history to one with really no history to speak of in terms of playoff success, and just to see what they've done this year is remarkable. A 24-6 record, making it all the way to the region semifinals, and now with a chance to go even deeper. They got Axtell this week in a series at Cleburne, and they got a chance to add to this history. But it's really cool what he's done this year, what the girls have done for him. And it's going to be fun to talk to him about the success they've had and kind of what he's what he attributes that.
Before we jump into this week's show, we need to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. All right, and with that, Dan, we had a big week last week. We had a number of big playoff series in baseball and softball, and we also had a great showing in the state track meet, as always.
Yeah, no question. And you can check out all of our state track coverage. We have coverage of each day with all the medalists mentioned, as well as those who place. So make sure you do that. But like you said, just a great showing at all levels. We had some medals at every level below 4A, and just a lot of kids doing some special things. Had a team title from the Haskell girls, almost had a team title from Cross Plains, kind of not necessarily a controversial ending, but just a confused ending where the Cross Plains girls had thought that they had tied for the team title, and then the UIL realized they hadn't counted some points for their opponent, so they finished second. But just some neat stories out there, as there always are. A lot of individuals did some really special things, and like I said, I encourage all of y'all to go check that out on the site. You can see exactly how all of our athletes did. But congratulations to all those kids. That's always a big deal to get to finish your season in Austin, and a lot of those kids did a remarkable job. So make sure you check that out. And then, like you said, a huge weekend, or a huge week rather, for baseball and softball. You were busy with softball. We had parts of 6 series in Abilene last week, and I'm proud to say that I saw at least a part of every single one of those. So I was very, very busy covering baseball, but it was a whole lot of fun.
How did you avoid getting lobstered? I mean, you must have put on a ton of sunblock because you're out in the sun all day out there.
I didn't. I have a pretty good farmer's tan going. It's not quite as bad now as it was, Sunday night, but I did forget to. Fortunately, we had a little bit of an overcast, and we had some lightning delays that pushed us into the evening and into the nighttime. So I didn't get as lobsters as I would have otherwise. But sitting out at ACU in the afternoon and Hardin Simmons in the afternoon, I definitely got a little bit of sunburn. But a lot of really good baseball played. It was a lot of fun to watch. We've still got a lot of teams playing both baseball and softball, and this time, I've said this so many times on this podcast, but this is one of my favorite times of the year. I absolutely love the baseball and softball playoffs. The format where you've got one series a week, and you really get to draw this thing out. I love it. It really makes for a lot of excitement, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I got to go and witness 3 separate softball series. I got to see Stanford eliminate Haskell. We had to say goodbye to the Haskell Maidens, who closed their season out. They lost 2 straight games to Stanford, the defending state champs. So there's no shame in that. I got to see game 1 of Albany and Hamlin, which was actually a great game over at McMurray, with Albany taking game 1. Hamlin came back and won that series, however, which is another one of those great stories that we were just talking about a moment ago. The Pied Pipers, the Lady Pipers, advancing to the regional semifinals. And then I got to see both games of the Merkel-Cahoma series. Cahoma's for real. They closed out a great Merkel team in a couple of competitive ball games, 2 straight. And I'm telling you right now, if you sweep Merkel, you've got it going on, because that's a good ball club, good pitching, sound in the field. It's a strong hitting ball club. Cahoma is legitimate. I've listened to some people that didn't think that they were. You're incorrect. Yes, I have. I heard some actual talk a few weeks back, thinking that maybe they weren't, but I'm telling you, They are. This is
Yeah, I saw enough from them
this
out of
is
that.
a very good softball team.
Yeah, I saw enough from them out of that sweep of Wall in the bi-district round to where they I was a believer from the
Yeah.
beginning. I mean, I became a believer. I mean,
Seeing's
I've been following
believing.
them all year. I became a
Seeing's
believer when I saw
believing.
they when I saw they beat Friendship, a really good Class 6A team. That was the one I was like, okay, this team is. In fact, I think I sent you a text that night. I was like, go look at these scores. And since then, obviously, that's been part of a huge run they're on right now. So I'm definitely a believer of the Coma Lady Bulldogs or Bulldogettes rather.
Yes.
And honestly, I was a believer in Merkel too. So to this, that only adds to how good I think they are to go out there and sweep that Merkel team.
They answered all doubts, and I mean they before that they swept a very good Wall team. You know that's when you sweep Wall, the writing is on the wall when you sweep Wall. You know, so but believe it or not, some people didn't think that they were cracked up to be, and that they've corrected them. That's you see this ball club, you become a believer because they've got all the pieces.
All right. And so sticking on softball for a little bit, we'll move up to Class 5A. And I think we got to talk about those Wiley Lady Bulldogs who are still alive. They're playing in the region semifinals for the second time in the last 4 years after beating sweeping Canyon Randall 6-5, 2-1, a couple of really close, tight games, hard fought games. But this team's got something going. Obviously, they got a tough matchup this week with Aledo, which it comes in this series at 29-2. But this Wiley team, I'm telling you, they've hit a stride. They've won like 14 of their last 15 games and have really found a confidence level that they maybe weren't playing with early in the season. And it's been fun to watch too. They got a couple of pitchers that are really doing well with Reese Ferrer and Riley Moore, and then just the really scrappy lineup, play good defense. So that's going to be a fun one to watch as well. But it's amazing to this deep in the playoffs. We've talked about it in the past, but this deep in the playoffs to still have as many teams as we have is pretty impressive. And Wiley is one of those. They got a chance to make it to a region final if they can knock off Aledo this week.
Well, jumping over to baseball, this Wall Hawk team that you got to watch, you are very high on this ball club. You think very highly of this young Wall team. Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that so impressed me about this team is that they're doing this while being led primarily by freshmen and sophomores. They've got a lot of young talent on that team. I mean, I think if you look, each of their top 3 pitchers, each of the starters you would see in a playoff series are freshmen or sophomores. And I think the top 8 players by plate appearance in their lineup are all freshmen or sophomores. You've got a lot of young guys doing some really special things for this team. And they just keep winning. That's another team that's on a big winning streak. They've won, 16 straight games coming into this week's series against against Bowie. And that's going to be a tough series as Early learned with playing this Bowie team. This was a 3rd place team out of its district, but Bowie is very good. Don't let that seeding kind of confuse you a little bit. This is a team that was, I think, a preseason top 10 team coming in Class 3A, and they've really kind of found their stride. So Wall will have its work cut out, but I do like this team. And I talked to Coach Schneers for a feature I did a week or so ago, and he kind of said, I don't know if it's going to be this year or in the next couple of years, but I agree with him. I think this team has that type of nucleus that I would not be at all surprised to see this one, finish the season in Round Rock one of these years. And I think it could this season. Obviously, they've got a really tough region. They've got a tough series against Bowie this week. And then obviously on the other side, you've got Brock and Holiday playing, which are both excellent teams as well. So it's going to be
that's a tough series, Brock and Holiday.
Yeah. And and that was going to be tough either way, because Holiday beat Jim Ned in a couple of close games to get to the region quarters. So Brock was going to have, a state title contender or state tournament contender either way that one went, whether it was Holiday or Jim Ned. Holiday was able to edge him in a couple of games, and now, but that sets up a huge series between Brock and Holiday. These are 2 teams I think that both have, state tournament ceilings, certainly. And one of them's going to bow out in the 3rd round.
All right. Now tell us, let's move on to local baseball. Let's talk about Wiley and what they're showing. How do you like their chances going into this round?
Yeah, I mean, they've played really well. Obviously, they were kind of heavy favorites in their first 2 series against Plainview and against El Paso El Dorado, and they took care of both as you would expect them to. And now they've got a series against kind of an upstart program from El Paso del Valle, which enters this week at 26-6 compared to 23-5 for Wiley. I think this is a Valle team they got past the area round for the first time in quite a while this year. So they're on a high right now, playing really well. I think that this Wiley team probably feels like this is a series that they can and probably should win, but this is going to be a tough one from Del Valle. But this Wiley team's a fun one to watch. They've got a lot of younger kids mixed with a good group of seniors as well. So it's It's a good quality team, and this will be a good test for them. But that's what you expect in the third round of the playoffs. This is where things really start to get tough for you, and this I think it gets to be a lot of fun.
Well, and baseball and football are different animals, and often when you get to this point in the season, some people tend to, especially in football, may overlook an El Paso team. But I'm telling you right now, we've seen very good baseball teams coming out of that El Paso area, so I would expect a tough series for Wiley.
Yeah, I agree, and I think El Paso is traditionally done pretty well in baseball. Like you said, they've got some good quality teams, and this Del Valle team is no exception. And actually, that kind of transitions us pretty well to 4A, where Snyder's going to have an El Paso Riverside team this week that's 20-9. Snyder's a team we haven't talked a ton about, particularly for a team that's 21-9. But they're coming off a big series win over Andrews, where they won a couple of extra innings games to overcome a 1-0 series deficit. So they beat Andrews in 3 games with a couple of extra innings wins. But this Snyder team is a really scrappy bunch. It's one that people should definitely be paying attention to. And they got a series this week against Riverside. I know in 4A, when you talk about 4A baseball in our area, Stephenville is usually the team that a lot of folks are paying attention to, and for good reason. The Stephenville team obviously is coming off a state tournament appearance, and they're very good again this year. They've got a big series against Iowa Park coming up this week. But don't sleep on the Snyder Tigers. They got a good bunch as well.
All right, with that, we're going to jump down to Class 2A. We got a couple of interesting series in the regional quarters. We've got an Anson team that you think a great deal of, and you should, since they came within 1 win of reaching state last year, and they're looking great this year. They've got Hamilton next, and we've got an interesting series. We've got an emerging Coleman baseball team facing perennial power Albany. And you've had, actually both of us have seen Coleman this season. Plenty of athleticism, and they've really taken a step forward over what we've seen over the last few years.
Yeah, and we'll talk plenty about Anson and Albany in just a minute, but I think Coleman's another one of those on the boys' side, on the baseball side, that is just a great story. When you look at what they've done really all year long in basically every sport, this Coleman program, that they had a little bit of a lull there for a while, and they are roaring back. When you look at what they did in football, winning double-digit games, and then they go to basketball, make a big kind of surprising run on the boys' basketball side. And then now in baseball, they're in the third round after beating both Stanford in 3 games and then sweeping Forsan last week. That was a good Forsan team too. So you're talking about a Coleman team that's just gaining confidence and starting to play really well. Here's the question: do they have the pitching necessary to beat an Albany? I mean, we'll find out. But I do like that lineup is going to put pressure on you. I mean, they've got a good solid lineup with a lot of players. There's a lot of it's really a deep lineup that goes pretty deep. When you're going to have to pitch to those guys because they're not going to get themselves out. And then they field the ball well too. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think the question is, you're going to face a couple of really good pitchers in Albany. Can you match those?
Yeah, well, and if it went to Game 3, do they have the pitching depth to remain competitive against that Albany lineup? And that's when you really find out how much pitching depth you've got when those baseball games go to Game 3.
Yeah, and that's the question. That's kind of the interesting thing, because in their series against Stanford, it was a little bit odd in that they threw their ace in the first game and won that one. And then the second game, they got blown out. They lost, they got run ruled in the second game. And then the third game came back and pitched a good game and won. So it's kind of a deal where, I mean, they have the arms. It's just the matter of who shows up and how they show up that day. But this team is interesting. It's been a fun team to watch. I do like what they bring to the field. They play with a lot of enthusiasm. And like all of their teams at this point, that's a very athletic team. They've got a lot of speed in the outfield. They can really run balls down. They've got a really good double play combo up the middle, a quality catcher. They've got players. Just when you're talking about Albany, you're talking about kind of the gold standard in recent, along with Anson, the gold standard in Class 2A baseball for about the last 5 or 6 years.
Well, they always have expectations. They always expect to win. They're always disciplined. They're always well coached. They're always tough. That's Albany. On the other end of that, we got an Anson team, and on the subject of arms, on the subject of pitching depth, we want to talk about some uncommon pitching depth.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Anson Tigers, who have probably got 5 or 6 guys at the 2A level. When you have like 7 guys that can throw strikes, you've won the lotto. Yeah. That's uncommon pitching depth.
And with them, it's not just throwing strikes. They're quality pitchers. They go at least 4 deep with guys that I think any 2A coach would be happy to throw in a weekend playoff series. When you talk about the Millers, Trevor Miller and Nick Miller, those 2 guys, if they send those guys to the mound, they're going to feel confident anytime those guys take the mound. And then behind them, you've got Blake Vincent and Dylan Pyle. I mean, those are 4 pitchers that I think, like I said, any coach would be happy to throw in a playoff series and would feel confident about their chances. And they've got one of those guys coming out of the bullpen on any given day. So it's a pretty remarkable pitching staff they got. And the thing that's crazy is it's not just pitching either. This is a team that really makes you work at the plate. They're very, very patient. They do not swing at balls. They get a lot of walks, and then that allows them to create and extend a lot of rallies as they just don't get themselves out. So this Anson team, we were talking with Coach Nichols about that after the game the other day, after they swept their series against Cristoval in just a dominating effort, 13-0 and 10-0, both games going 5 innings. We talked about Coach Nichols just about how solid this team is in all phases, and that's one thing that I think they take a lot of pride in. This is an Anson team that is very, very good and very, very confident. I think that they feel like they've got a legitimate chance to get to the state tournament this year. I think that they feel like that's their goal, and I think to me, I think they're the favorite. They're the team. I think they're the team to beat.
All right, and let's not forget to jump down to Class 1A, where we're seeing what might be a vintage Ira baseball team. We're accustomed to seeing Ira field a solid baseball team, and we've even seen them make some surprisingly deep runs. But this year, the Bulldogs haven't lost a game. They're unbeaten. So they might really go a long way. We might be looking, as you say, as a ceiling, of state. It's possible.
Yeah. And I think this may be the Ira team that finally breaks through that ceiling, that finally does kind of get over that hump. Like you said, Coach Toby Goodwin's had a bunch of quality teams over the years. They're probably the most consistently good 1A team in our area. Every year they're kind of in this mix. But if they can get past Westbrook this week in the regional semifinals, and Westbrook's been a good story as well. This Ira team's one win away from a state tournament appearance, which would be a pretty cool story. But I think when you look at that team, you got to talk about their pitching. That is another team at the 1A level, very deep with pitching, a couple of really quality arms. And I think that's kind of where it starts for them. And you look, like you said, no losses on that record. You got to be doing something right. So this is an Ira team that is very exciting. And I think, like I said, this could be the one that gets, over that hump and into the state tournament. This team, I think, has that ability.
All right, it's just about time to bring on Hico softball coach Ryan Starnes. But before we do that, we need to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts throughout the school year. Also, for the love of the game broadcasting, and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, KWKQ 94.7 FM out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That's for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give Rob a shout. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Call him at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And finally, Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give him a shout at 325-669-5153. Or visit his website at philhillproperties.com. And with that, Dan, it is just about time to bring on Ryan Starnes, the head softball coach of Hico, who is still alive. They have reached the regional semifinals in before this year. They hadn't even won a playoff game. It's just a heartwarming story. It really is. And the town has kind of rallied behind them. They had a huge crowd on Monday night out at Stephenville. Very interesting. We'll see how they do against that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think this is what high school sports are all about. I mean, I think these types of teams are why you do it. I mean, you have an opportunity for kids to grow and mature through success. I think it's always fun to see, particularly for a town and a program that hadn't experienced a whole lot. So, I mean, I agree with you. This is a heartwarming story, one of the big country's top stories this year, and it's gonna be fun to see just how far this goes. I think that this team has obviously been a surprise for a lot of people, and you got to see him play. I know that you were impressed. It's going to be fun to see how far they can take this, and it's going to be fun to talk to Coach Starnes about this team, and it looks like he is just about ready to join us. So let's go ahead and get him on.
And joining us now, Hico softball coach Ryan Starnes. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all so much for having me.
Coach, you guys are on a historic run. I mean, before this season, Hico had never even won a playoff game in softball. Now we look up, and all of a sudden, the Lady Tigers are in the regional semifinals. It's developed into one of the top stories of the spring in the big country area. Can you tell us about the keys to the success we're seeing?
It's just been really fun to be a part of this group. I think they're a little unsure coming in. Like I say, the tradition hasn't been there, the success hasn't been there. but as the years gone on, they've just gained confidence, and the buy-in has been there. You know, they're coachable kids. They go to work every day, and you know, I mean, I think as the year went, you know, you look at the first time around in district. When we go to Rio Vista, huge game to our kids just because they had kind of dominated the district in the past. And we go over there and we play well and we come away with a win. And I really think that's when the kids started to really think, you know, we could really do something neat this year, you know, and it's just built from there, you know. They with each week they just gain more confidence. The community has been awesome, you know, rallied around them. It seems like our crowds grow each week. We're talking about what these kids are doing. And you know, y'all know from being around it, you know, it's one thing to talk about it, but I mean, people are wanting to come watch them just because of how they go about it, you know, and like I say, it's been fun to be a part of.
Coach, going all the way back to the beginning, as you followed Coach Swearingen over from Brock to Hico, just what were some things that maybe went into that decision? What was that transition like when you first arrived?
Yeah, so you know, to set the table there, you know, I have two boys, and so I was looking to better my boys' resume when I came to Hico, and I came to be the offensive coordinator. And actually, when I came over here, I wasn't going to be doing softball. I thought, you know, that holiday loss in the regional quarterfinals at Brock, I thought I was done with softball for I didn't know how long, you know, and got over here and a couple weeks into summer, the coach that was here left, and Coach Swearingen, you know, approached me about, hey, you know, would you want to do this? And I love softball. You know, I love the game. It's a fast game. You know, I've always loved coaching it, but like I say, I didn't think I was going to be doing that here. But once I saw the opportunity, shoot, yeah, I wanted to get back in it, and you know, it worked out well. You know, the transition, of course, it's different. You know, at Brock, I mean, you know, we got kids the first day of school that's all they do is play softball, and here, you know, these kids do everything, and that's a big difference. But as far as the game goes, you know, I just tried to approach teaching it the same way. So.
Well, Coach, you enjoyed a lot of success at Brock. You took the Lady Eagles to state 4 straight years, and you shift over to Hico. And I know every team's got its own personality, and those kids at Brock mean the world to you. I know that. But all of a sudden, with the accomplishment, this unexpected accomplishment of Hico, how does this team stack up as far as the teams you're proud of?
It's just so different, you know, because at Brock, you know, y'all have seen, I mean, y'all cover that. I mean, those kids there expect to win in everything that they do. I mean, it's just a culture that's there. That's what they expect. And here, like I say, that these kids have started to evolve into that, you know, and to see that it's been really neat to be a part of, to just see them, like I say, gain confidence and start to believe that they can do things that people didn't think they could do, you know.
And Coach, you kind of touched on this, but I'm sure, I mean, just the enthusiasm around town has to just be at an all-time high. Just what's it been like to see the community kind of rally around this team and kind of as deeper y'all have gotten, just see the excitement grow?
It's been awesome, you know. I mean, and that's another part of coming over to Hico is getting back into the small town, and you know, our boys seeing people that they know, and you know, to have them all be talking about softball right now. I mean, I've had people that I've never met before come up to me and say they can't wait to come to the next game, you know, and that's just been really cool, and really cool for our kids, because our kids deserve that with the product they put out on the field. You know, they've earned that, and it's been neat.
Coach, tell us about coming from 2 games down in this Toller series. That's a very good Toller team, and a lot of people may have just written you off at that point.
Yeah, you know, it just in this profession, you know, you teach life lessons as anything, and that's just something we talked about after the loss Saturday. Is, you know, we couldn't go back and fix the things that we did so wrong on Saturday, but but we could look to move forward. And I felt like a lot balled on us. Our kids started to reflect on some of the negative experience had playing Toller, and that made things go from bad to worse, I thought. And so we just really talked about, how going to, game two, we needed to reflect on the things that had gotten us there, the positive things that each kid had did to get us to that point, and not lose sight of those things. And we were right there. Our kids just started to gain confidence. Like, we're in a good spot, that we're like, we can do this. And that better team. And once we were able to win game two and finish, our kids felt great going into game three.
Coach, a big part of that series, a big part of it in the contributions of Kirsten Fincannon. I guess just what has she meant to this team, just both in the circle and at the plate?
We've talked about this, and since the group is, we never want to be too high, never want to be too low. We want to be even. Our approach to practices, our approach to games, and Kirsten exemplifies that. You watch that kid play. I mean, she hits a huge home run for us, in game three there, and she just stays even keel. Struck out her first at bat, her second at bat, which is a home run, but you couldn't tell the difference in her in either instance. And for our team, I think they've been able to kind of feed off that, that if someone makes a mistake behind her, she's not going to show bad body language. She's not going to show negativity to it. She's just going to stay even keel, get the ball back, and let's go back to work. And I think our team has been able to do that, and not just the numbers, but that has been huge for us.
I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to interrupt just for a second. I want to talk about that home run that Fincannon hit for just a second. That's the hardest hit ball I've seen this year in a softball game. I mean, she crushed that thing. Did that ball ever come back? I mean, or did it go into the baseball field?
That might be the hardest hit ball I've ever seen. I mean, it was still going up when it went out.
She crushed
the parents
it.
say they thought it hit the baseball field, almost landed in the baseball field. It was crushed. Yeah.
And another one in a name that a lot of people would know from the basketball court, Grace Booth is obviously, I think she showed that last weekend after been playing in some pain. Just what does that mean to have her out there and her presence as well?
She's constantly on the go, playing basketball on the weekends. But like I say, she's a fighter. I mean, she got front tooth knocked out in a basketball tournament down on Sunday, shows up Monday just ready to battle. And that's exactly what she did for us in those two games last night, for sure.
All right, Coach. Tell us about Axtell. To what degree have you been able to scout them? What can you tell us about this Axtell ball club that you're going to be going up against?
They're very solid. UMHB commit in the circle, left-handed. She can throw everything at you. She's good velocity, change speeds. She's tough, and then behind her, they're going to play great defense. They're not going to beat themselves. They're going to make plays. Their lineup is deep. There's pressure on you that way. And all year with our group, our focus is just going to be controlling ourselves, doing what we can do to limit the mistakes. All we can control is our, and that's how we're going to approach it. Is we're going to go try to put our best and let the dominoes fall where they may.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and good luck to you and the Lady Tigers. We'll be keeping an eye on you.
So much for everything.
Appreciate it, Coach.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that was Hico softball coach Ryan Starnes. I got a kick out of watching the Lady Tigers win that series against Toller. That was it was an amazing comeback, but this is clearly a team that is having a lot of fun as well. It didn't look like they felt a lot of pressure. You'd think that a team that was playing in its first ever regional quarterfinal would be all jittery, and maybe they were in game one. They did not play well in game one. They lost that one 14-5. but they came from behind and won game 2 and game 3, and they're clearly having fun. Starnes has, I don't know, he's only been there for a year, but it's his first season, but he's already starting to change the culture there.
Yeah. And an interesting tidbit out of the conversation we just had, I didn't realize that he had not gone there planning to coach the softball team. So I thought that was an interesting little bit of information that he shared with us today. But I think everyone's glad that he that he did decide to take that over. Just the job that he's done there, and like you said, obviously the team's having fun. It would appear from our conversation that he's having fun. That's just a great story. You mentioned at the outset that this is one of the top stories you think in the area. And I couldn't agree more. I always love underdog stories to begin with, but when you've got a program like Hico that has never even won a playoff game to be making this type of run, there's nothing more fun in high school sports to me than these types of runs, because you can just see the confidence build in the players. You can see just the excitement build in those communities. It's just an awesome time. I really have enjoyed watching this run that they're on.
And it's eerily similar to the story that we've got going in Hamlin. Hamlin had been 15 years since Hamlin won a playoff game, or a playoff series rather, 15 years. And here they're in the regional semifinals now after getting past a good Albany ball club. Mm-hmm. And both communities are kind of rallying around their softball teams. It was the rest of their programs are kind of in a rebuilding mode right now, a rebuilding cycle as most schools go through. But their softball teams have stepped forward after a long layoff for a long drought, and both of them are still going. It's very similar. It's kind of strange that they're both going at the same time in different regions.
Yeah, and both have coaches that have had success at other larger schools that come there and kind of just to instill a belief and a culture in that program. You talk about Coach Bodis over at Hamlin. We had him on the podcast earlier this season. It's kind of a similar deal where he just kind of got the girls to buy in, and you're seeing the success they're having now. But it's the same thing with Hico, and Starnes has actually kind of been on an accelerated schedule, given that this is his first year. So just a really good feel-good story, and I'm excited to see how far they take this. I think obviously Axel's going to be a tough opponent, but I think they've got a shot to advance past this one as well, and it'll be exciting to see if they can.
And with that, it's just about time to wrap up the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at BigCountryPreps.com. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where you knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock that price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
We'd also like to remind you, if you see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. We have digital downloads available for $7, as well as some prints and keepsakes. So make sure you check those out. As you're scrolling through the site, you'll notice pretty quickly that we take a lot of photos from these events that we're at. It's something we enjoy doing and something we're very proud of here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.